Good evening, Zimbabwe. You are listening to Studio 7 from the Voice of America on Wednesday, November 26th, 2014. And this is Live Talk. I'm Blessing Zulu.
And I'm Kip Stube.
And tonight on Live Talk, we are talking about the reunification of the two MDC formations, that is MDC and MDC Renewal Team.
To join the discussion, phone us directly at this number, 001-202-619-2077, and we'll call you back.
And as usual, Live Talk goes out to Zimbabwe on our 919 medium wave frequency and on the 4930, 5940 and 15455 kilohertz shortwave, Monday through Friday at 8:30 p.m.
On the internet, you can find us at www.voazimbabwe.com, www.voashona.com, and www.voadebele.com.
When the struggle against Mugabe became too difficult, when it became too protracted, when it was longer than we had originally thought in 1999, some of us began to admire the tactics and the methods of ZANU-PF.
We aim to create a party that is predictable, definable, controllable, manageable by participating and putting in place institutions of all the mechanisms that we put together in agreement and by consensus to strengthen our democracy.
We had an agenda for change that we adopted in 1999. We forgot about that agenda for change. And as we go back to our homes today, I want some of you who were there in 1999 to reflect and remember the priorities of that agenda for change. That agenda for change focused on a new constitution for Zimbabwe.
Once again, thanks for joining us. You are listening to Studio 7 Live Talk. And tonight on Live Talk, we are talking about the reunification of the MDC and the MDC Renewal Team.
The two formations of the MDC met in Harare today to hammer out an agreement that will see them rebranding and prepare for a Congress next year to seal the unification.
Pressure has been mounting on the opposition parties in Zimbabwe to unite to mount a strong challenge against President Robert Mugabe's ruling ZANU-PF in power since 1980.
What do you think about this issue? If you wish to join the show right now, phone us directly at 001-202-619-2077 and we'll call you back. That number again is 001-202-619-2077. You can also send a message on WhatsApp, and our number is 1-202-465-0318. Yeah, for it.
Wonguka Gibbs nasi tira kuti tinge tichitaura nezvemubatanidzwa weMDC neMDC Renewal Team. Vaviri ava vanyorerana chibvumirano muHarare nhasi chokuti vange vachishanda pamwe chete. Zvinova zvinhu zvanga zvichitaurwa nevakawanda kuti mapato anopikisa anofanira kuti anga achibatana oita mushandira pamwe, hanzi unonzi mushandira pamwe semajuru vorwa vari pamwe chete kuti vakurire ZANU-PF, nekuti vakangoita mazvake mimba yebere hapana chinobuda.
Ye kunjalo ke Blessing njo ufa wakho yes ulukandaba siyahlangana njalo ku Live Talk lamhlanje. Udaba esixoxa ngalo ke lamhla lokho kwenziwe ngamabandla eMDC. Siyakwazi kule MDC ekhokhelwa umnumzana uWashman Ncube, bese kubuya ke le MDC ekuthiwa yi-renewal le esanda ukuhlubuka khona ngale ku-MDCT. Sizwile ukuthi balobelane ke isivumelwano sokuthi kumele badlelelane ndawonye, njalo ibandla leli esengani selibunjiwe kuthiwa yi-United MDC. Nxa sikhuluma lapha kade ngani akuzwakali kumbe kuyaba kulibandla inkalakatha kumbe abanye babe lamabandla abo bephakathi khonapho, kodwa ke kukhanya ngazani libandla sibili selibonjiwe. Esikuzwayo njalo ukuthi bayalungisela ukuthi baye kukhongolose. Siyakwazi izikhathi zama-Congress lezi ziyahlupha mfowethu. Kangathi kwenzakalani ngale kuZANU? Uyafiwa. Ingqabangqoza mfowethu. So siyethemba ukuthi labo awusoze bedilike phela. Bengakafiki kuCongress, right?
For those of you who are just joining us, this is Studio 7 Live Talk. And note that you can phone us directly at this number 001-202-619-2077, and we'll call you back. The number once again 001-202-619-2077. Gibbs.
ye lingafona ke khathesi khona manje inumber nasi khonapho ke zulu kandaba 001-202-619-2077. Ngizayiphinda futhi 001-202-619-2077. liyenelisa njalo ukusithumezela umlayezelo kuWhatsApp pokuthi cha nje usithumezele khona ngapha lo blessing sizawuzuza khona manje 1-202-465-0318. Ngizaphinda njalo 1-202-465-0318. Labo ke abalomabona kude khangela ku screen sakho kubhaliwe khathesi ukuthi wenzeni xa utexta. Ukutexta phela lokho lokubonga ukuthi uyatobeza nje mfowethu. Anje kubotobotoza nje. Suthumeza nje. Kunjalo mfowethu. Yeah.
And maybe we can start with some messages that we are receiving from our listeners. The first one is from Enos, and Enos says it's a non-event. And then we have Columbus, who says, let these guys have a new name for their party. Why are they sticking to MDC? They know they are a complete failure. Viva Changson, our hope for the future. Lakwo says, wish them well. Peter says, it's a good idea. Include MDCT. Sama says, Biti and Nube are in the wrong basket. Desire says it's a good move to forge reunification, but my question is, who will be the president of the United MDC? I think we'll be able to answer that. Or I think that's the work of the Congress that will be coming up later. And then Jimmy says they should have looked for a different name without the MDC extension. Samuel says their party won't go anyway. Let's wait and see. Farai says this is a desperate attempt by these two groups. They should have come up with a new name other than MDC. It shows lack of creativity. We want something better than the current parties we have right now. It makes me think they are all puppets. Kunakwashe says it is like a football team now, and for as long as it is in the hands of failed people, it will still fail. Then we have Shamba, who says those guys are power hungry, nothing new to expect from them. Alfred says, of course, a term that I will censor, but he says the leaders are greedy and selfish and never says it's just nonsense. Zenda says, why can't they name this new party something new, not reverting again to MDC? Farai M says this reunification is not worth celebrating to the majority of us because they are ZANU-PF employees and this is known by all rational people in the country. Tapiwa says it's a futile effort. Let's end there. What do you have, Gibbs?
Yeah, on Facebook we've got so many messages. So far we received 85 messages from people. This is massive.
It did.
We've got Mr. Moken Dube who says their biggest letdown will be breaking up soon. Mofati Manyanya says this is what lacks in Zimbabwe politics. I salute you all. Unity is number one. I now talk to other parties also. Then I've got Constantine who writes, I just admire the fact that a woman is in charge of this party. Only that. That's what this person says. Then we've got Passwell. Passwell says, yes, thank you so much for having such a very wonderful party. Then we've got Tsengerai who says, you're all welcome 100%. So we love the party. And then let's see, there are so many of them. We've got Tawanda Dubai Mpof who says, these are useless losers. Then Admo Bonanim Lilo just writes, 0 plus 0 equals 0. This is the party which lost very badly in the last elections. He ends there, right? Then we've got another message from Felix who says, who let the dogs out? Who? I mean, those are parking dogs, man. So, all right. So let's end the board.
I think we are now being joined by the Secretary General of the MDC Renewal Team. That is Honorable Tendai Biti. Honorable Biti, good evening.
Good evening,
thank you so much for joining us. Gibbs, you can start the ball rolling.
Yes, Mr. PD, thank you for accepting our invitation to come for this program. So the first question is, give us a brief. Is this a party, a coalition? What animal is this?
Well, the two formations that met today are the original MDC formations that were there at the Rufaro Stadium on the 11th of September 1999, that were there at the inaugural Congress on the 26th of June 2000, that are also united by a common umbilical code, and that umbilical code is that they said no to internal abuse of democracy, of values, to centralization of power in an individual, to the personalization of the party. So they've just come together to say, look, we are bound by a common umbilical code. So let's give Zimbabweans a fresh chance by creating a new narrative. And there's no question that in the history of Zimbabwe, where the language of hate, the language of disunity, the language of disharmony has been the dominant discourse, this is a new paradigm shift where people can put the issues of power and their differences aside and say, let's craft together something that can give fresh hope to the people of Zimbabwe.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Biti, what we are getting from most callers is it appears, or rather from those who are writing on Facebook and on our on the social media, on WhatsApp, they are saying that they are simply tired of this name MDC, and they want a complete break from that name.
Look, if you read the actual text of the agreement, it actually says that we are going to change the name. It says that we're going to rebrand. So it says that, but the rebranding has to be a consultative process. So we didn't want to give the name now before the people themselves, the members themselves, have chosen what name they want. So the agreement itself is very clear. At the Congress in August, the Congress shall have new leadership, bring in new leadership. The Congress shall adopt a new constitution. The Congress shall adopt name, party, logos, and symbols. So to have imposed a name today would have been undemocratic. And so we chose a name that would not be undemocratic because we are already MDC. So we just said UMDC. And if you look at the agreement, the name of DC, the interim name is UMDC as a noun, not an acronym. It's UMDC. So we are quite alive to the fact that the name MDC is tired and exhausted. It is associated with the things that are not different from ZANU-PF. But if we are Democrats, then we should allow our members to consult on the key question of a name, because a name you live with throughout your life.
Mm-hmm. So is it wrong for the media organizations, for example, that are saying that a new party called UMDC has actually been launched?
Again, you need to read the agreement. These are two MDC formations with using a very similar constitution. So what is happening here right now is that these two formations have come together under this agreement. The actual formation, the actual reunification will take place at Congress. So you've got a transition now. In that transition now, the organizations will exist in two forms. Number one, in their own independent right, is the MDC team, commonly known as Renewal, and the MDC. Then next year in August, they will come together now with the Congress. Between January to June, they will be consolidating the structures and harmonizing the structures so that by the time that they go to Congress, they will have one leadership. And the Congress is just a reunification. So it's not a new party at all, it's just a reunification. But that unified party will have a right of rebranding itself. And rebranding is revolutionary. Mm-hmm. And you've already seen that in our songs, in our colors. The branding has already started because we are moving.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Honorable BT. Please do stay on the line. And now we are being joined by Professor Washman Ngube, the leader of the MDC. Professor Ngube, good evening.
Good evening, Clapton.
Thank you so much for joining us. And Gibbs, you can fire away.
Let's talk to the good professor. Now, Professor Ngube, give us your take on your party or the party that you are trying to form or you've already formed. Give us that kind of, what is going on.
Well, I'm not sure if what exactly you're asking in the light of what Honorable BT has already told you, it's 100% correct. But if you want it in my own words and in the briefest possible way,
Yes.
The process we're engaging is trying, if you like, to put back together the pieces of the MDC which had separated over time. So we are reunifying the two parties so that they can become one party. Once again, the principal objective of that is to ensure that we return to the founding values and principles of the MDC, which always spoke to good governance, which always spoke to making sure that political processes are there to address the basic needs of the people, to address questions of joblessness, to address questions of poverty, in short, to ensure that we can deliver a life to all Zimbabweans. That is what this whole thing is about, the regrouping, coming back together, so that we can go back to the race, back to the course that we started in 1999, which along the way we had gotten lost in the forest.
Thank you very much.
For those of you who are just joining us, this is Studio 7 Live Talk. And tonight on Live Talk, we are talking about the reunification of the MDC and MDC renewal team. And our guests this evening, we have Professor Washman Ngube and Honorable Tendai Biti. And we, of course, want to say thank you to the two gentlemen for agreeing to come on our show and answer questions from our listeners. We always encourage that from senior politicians because some shy away but complain when things and blame the media for not reporting it as it is. So of course we want to say thank you to these gentlemen. It should be Heathcliff Harare kandi tiri kukanganisa vamudhenge makadii?
Makadii yenyu.
Aiwa tiripo. Tina biti ina muzvinafundo Ngube kana muine mubvunzo kana paine zvamunoda kuwedzera.
Actually, handina mubvunzo. Ndoda kungoti kuvana veZimbabwe ngatirege kukonfyuzwa, ngatirege kukanganiswa. Kune mamwe mapati ari kungofomwa kukanganisa zvinhu. Ngatizive kuti muZimbabwe mune MDC inotungamirwa naPresident Morgan Tsvangirai naVaMugabe. Ndiwo mapati ari genuine atoziva aripo. Ende aya mamwe aya kana kupatsaruka kwawo hakuna tsarukano, hatina chokwadi nawo kuti kuri genuine, kunogona kuri kumwe futi kukanganisa pfungwa dzevanhu. Kana tichitaura zveMDC, there is only one MDC in Zimbabwe. Dai tangorega kukonfyuzwa nezviri kufomwa izvi. Even the way the United MDC doesn't mean anything kuvana veZimbabwe. Vana veZimbabwe tine MDC 1.
Vamudhenge
ndapedza.
Vamudhenge tangachida kubvunza musati maenda. Ko vanenge vasingawirirani navaMugabe navaTsvangirai vanoita sei?
Chekutanga ndechekuti kana mukatarisa pese panoitwa kana maelection kana kukanzi mapati mazhinji ari kufomwa. Ndekungoti zviya the genuine opposition ikati hatisi kuprotest, hatisi kuindawo maelection. There are those fake parties like the other MDCs
come in. Close election yaitwa saka democracy yaitwa zvaita.
Aiwa tinotenda vaMdenge nekupinda muchirongwa chedu. Of course, what Mr. Mdenge is saying is that as far as he's concerned, there are only two parties, that is ZANU-PF and the MDC T, led by Morgan Tsvangirai. Of course, my question to him was, what if you don't agree with the two gentlemen? I didn't quite get a straight answer there. Gibbs.
Silobaba lapho ose South Africa kumbe umnumzana Emol kumbe Errol Emo South Africa kunjani baba?
Yaphila linjani baba? Gibbs ngifuna ukuthi kona ngikhulume lamadoda lawa amabili lawo.
Akukhulume lawo sibili baba. Ibizo mbani?
Ubizo nge-Errol Marimbi.
Khuluma Marimbi.
Into engiyibonayo lapha ubaba Ncube ngumuntu wadliwayo. And bona bazonda utswankele sithi umubi ebusweni njalo ngafundanga. Lo finance lo wasebenza ku finance ubithi lo. Vele laye uyayazi ukuthi wasebenzisa ilo yakhe isitsotsi ukuthi kona abe ngemthetho zahamba enkotho zathatha isikhathi eside. Yikho bona besithi umhlangano ikongorozo yabo le izayenzakala phambili le kobo August ngoba bakwazi ukuthi kona bangayenza icongress la. Indaba leyo yokuthi labana ababalekayo kutswankira babiso vekizo bahlupha la madoda bazama ukuthatha uMaduku bazama ukuthatha uDabenga laba kwayehlula laba izigebenga ezifuna ukuphambanisa abantu beZimbabwe. Mina ngiyavumelana lolo osanda ukukhuluma ukuthi amadoda laba afuna ukuphambanisa bangani basebenzisetshenziswa iZANU-PF ngoba bangabe sebenzela abantu kwakufanele ukuthi kona bahlale kutswankirayo uNcube abuye ubuyela kutswankirayo ukuthi Ncube utswankirayo impambanisile sengikhulume lo bithi ukuthi sike back kuwe sizobambana lawo bomkhokheli wethu manje bahlala bethetisa utswankirayo every day kodwa yena utswankirayo sikaze simuswe ethetisa la madoda bona inkulumo zabo ngizwile uNcube sithi abanye bethu badodisa isimo ke ZANU-PF utsho kutswankirayo kona la so mina ngifuna ukuthi kona uNcube nje ukuthi kona la yena vele ufuna ukuthi baphambanisa utswankirayo nguye ulamandla ukuthi abantu thina sonkeni sinje sisekela yena basiphambanisa la madoda inkulumo yami.
Yes, akuzwe kodwa ke nxa abantu bengazwanani lokukhulunywa ke umnumzana uTsvangirai kumele benzeni bafele khona
bahambe bafoma iNcube bithi party bangaze basebenzise igama elikaTsvangirai ngoba abantu bonke bangena ku MDC ukuze babe amaminista wefinance kumbeni lawyer isetshenzwa nguNcube le igama likaTsvangirai lebabayedla ngalo so kade sibayazi ukuthi igama likaTsvangirai lelikhulu asingeke sakithi MDC.
hayi siyakuzwe
iparty yabo bafakilizo labeli egcekeni bazathola i0 vote egcekeni.
Yes, bokule kakhulu ke mnumzana Errol khula ngapho ke eSouth Africa ungadinwa mfowethu.
Yabo.
Yes, zambuza ke uNcube what was saying is that I know Mr. Ncube understood and Mr. Bidi what this gentleman was saying, but for the sake of those that don't understand isindebele you are saying that these two gentlemen they don't like Tsvangirai, right? They are saying that Tsvangirai is uneducated and is not a man of the people, you know. And at the end of the day, he says they should not use the name MTC. So they should look for another name, and they are not genuine in doing what they are doing right now. So according to him.
Rega titange tadzokera kuna vabiti pane vamwe vari kuti kunofanira kungoita mapato mairi chete ZANU-PF neMDC inotungamirwa navaTsvangirai, mungapindura ipapo?
Yes, I think chinonetsa muZimbabwe ndechekuti takakura tine culture vabvezera madhara akakura under Ian Smith, maboni free akakura under Robert Mugabe. So they've never, vanhu vemuZimbabwe, they've never known any other culture other than culture yevarume vaviri vavo. Tochizouyawo paformer MDC, the same culture has been there of what I can call little big men. They are big men. They've got political parties, they drive in motorcades, they've got parties and so forth, but they are little because they are not capable of putting the interests of the people pamberi. Avaisema interests evanhu pamberi. vatsangirai vamunotaura vatakasenza navo for 15 years tinovaziva through and through. 15 years down the line we are back to square zero. We've not achieved anything. There's corruption in MDC, there's corruption in ZANU-PF, there is lack of rule of law in ZANU-PF, there is no rule of law in the so-called big tent. Inyaya dzekunzi vote of no confidence haana kutanga muzanu atanga mu big tent yavatsangirai. So people of Zimbabwe have got a right to rewrite a new chapter in their politics, a chapter of politics of tolerance, of understanding, and of putting the people of Zimbabwe first. And that is what the people who met at Old Hararians did today in their numbers. There are over 5,000 people at Old Hararians this afternoon. They are making a statement. We are tired of contentless politics that is driven by little big men who are selfish and put themselves ahead of people. So this is the statement which we are making. So no amount of hate speech, no amount of abuse can discolor or disimpair the purity of the vision that we have.
Yeah, Baba Ncube usakhona ecingweni? Yeah, Baba Ncube ngicela uphendule ubaba lo okade segoli okade khuluma ngokuthi lina liyenzani. Yompendulo khonapho.
Ngimzwile uba Mavivi. Engingakutsho ukuthi hayi nxa echisa amavivi akhe kuphuma amathimpi phakathi efuna ukugonana lawo achatha isifule egonane thimpi lilungelo lakhe. Mina ngisoze ngigona ithimpi ngibone ukuthi lithimpi. Njalo nxa ifuna ukuthi sithi uTsvangirai ufundile ye ungudokotela uthiwa nguDr. Tsvangirai kulezi nsuku ufunde kakhulu kathabeleke ukufunda kwakhe khonokho.
Yeah, so alimzondi lino Tsvangirai ngokungabe ibekani khonapho ngoba ubuzile.
Singazonda umuntu ofunde kangako ngudokotela shuwa. Siyabe simzondelana.
Hayi kuyazwakala Ncube. Yeah, ubambe ungayikatshana. Siqhubeke sithatha umlalelo yethu. So he says they don't hate Mr. Tsvangirai at all, as alleged by one of our callers.
Of course, if you look at the South African National Assembly or Parliament, it actually has 13 political parties represented.
Yes.
You know, so there's nothing untoward towards
Exactly.
what is happening in Zimbabwe. Regatiende kuna vazho mwemuteereri wedu ari parunhare makadii vazho munoti kudii nenyaya iri mudariro iyi?
Vabiti vatamisa nguva yavo. Vabiti vakada kuti vapinde paupurezidendi vagotongavo vakauda vakura here vatsangirai vasinga kwapumukana vokuda papurezidendi vagozopindavo. Otherwise hapana kwavanoenda vabiti navanyuve vavoshenyuve unless vatsangirai vari pakati pavo. Zitene kuti tsangirai ita guru vakadzika midzi havasi vakabudirira uyezve kana vakada kungoti pane corruption kuitika kwose kune corruption. Vanhu vanonzi varungu kana vasimo munyika hakuna kwatinoinda. Varungu ndo vakakosha. Tsangirai ngaavepo akwanise kuti vanhu varungu adero vanhu vobatana panhu pamwe vogwa nemuvengi umwe. Havabiti vakapedza nguva yavo havazi vanomboita kana chimwe.
Aiwa, tinotenda zvikuru vazhou nekupinda muchirongwa chedu.
Hapana pavanoona chezero chechai papolice station. Havana kana munhu kana wani.
Aiwa, tinotenda zvikuru. Of course, Mr. Zhou is saying that the project will fail for as long as Tsvangirai is not part of the deal. I will continue with that discussion, but for our radio listeners, we are streaming live. Go to www.voazimbabwe.com and press on live talk. Honorable BT and Professor Ncube, please do stay on the line. Gibbs.
This is Gibbs Ncube in Washington, D.C. saying stay tuned.
for those of you who are just joining us, good evening. And this is Studio 7 Live Talk. And tonight on Live Talk, we are talking about the reunification of the MDC and MDC renewal team. Gibbs.
If you wish to join the show right now, phone us directly at this number, 001-202-619-2077, and we'll call you back. That number again, 001-202-619-2077. You can also send us a message on WhatsApp, and our number is 1-202-465-0318. Yeah, ask Kobe for it.
And let me go to Professor Ncube first. Professor Ncube, what exactly do you stand for? Let's talk about your ideology. What is bringing you together?
Well, Blessing, the ideology of the MDC was asserted its founding in 1999. And in short, we are a social democratic party which is committed to a good constitutional government, which believes in the maximum degree of liberty and freedom for people so that they can realize their potential in terms of the use of their intellectual abilities to identify and find solutions to the problems that we confront as a country. We believe in economic democracy. We believe in social democracy. We believe that the primary purpose of politics is to address the needs of the people. We must address issues relating to jobs. We must make the economy grow. We must make business successful. We must basically deal with issues of poverty. We must make sure we have a strong state with a conscience that those who are unable to succeed on their own, they will always have the safety net of the state. But let me take the opportunity, Blessing, to comment on the last comment. The tragedy that Zimbabwe faces as a country is that the more people appear to oppose Mugabe, the more they look like Mugabe, the more they mimic Mugabe. The gentleman who just spoke, please tell me, what is different from what he just said, from what ZANU preaches? Mugabe, it is his way or no other way. And we hear particularly from people who oppose Mugabe the same ideology. It is Tsvangirai or no other way. And this is exactly what we have been hearing from Mugabe. And this is what Honorable Viti has been saying. Mugabe has essentially won in transforming Zimbabwe into the sorry state that is it. Those who stand up and say they are opposed to Mugabe, they actually look like Mugabe, they speak like Mugabe, they smell like Mugabe, which must mean they are just Mugabe himself. And that's the tragedy of this country. And this is what we need to address. And we must have the courage of our convictions. And if these gentlemen think that we will stop believing in the liberty of our people, we will be deceived into believing in little Mugabe's. They are joking. We will not do so. We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to our children. We owe it to future generations that at whatever cost we must fight for the freedom of the people and reject the mimicry of ZANU-PF and the Mugabe tactics and the Mugabe DNA.
Mm-hmm. Of course, the Chinese prof say that if you fight a monster for a long time, you end up behaving like one.
Like what you say.
Exactly.
So sike sizwe ke silomnumzana uThulani eBotswana. Baba Thulani ungawutshona njani?
Kakhona ba untshona njani?
Hayi mbijani ungaphi kona?
Ngiphetha lapho la.
Ye kunjani phala?
Apha lapho kuyathisa.
Ye phose lakho mnumzana.
Hayi nami ngizawuthi ngifitshana nje. Hayi yazi into eyenzakala eZimbabwe. Siyayiva iyenzakala ukuthi bajoyinana kwaze kwathi hey but into yakhona yakwazi ukuthi ngathi into enzima but ayisho into enzima ikudlala lokho abakwenzayo sure ulo khatimam nomzana we-MDC Ntambara le asuka athi uyohlangana lalaba abasuke bebaleka kuTsvangirai but bona bablame umgabe bathi umgabe kwaze kwathini into abayenzayo vele is just the same mina ngezinye indlela ngingagqibela ngithi maybe there is somebody for ZANU-PF who is influencing each other ukuthi hayi yenzani so because into yakhona nxa ungayikhangela winanzelele kakhulu yazi mina vele lapho esuka khona siyakhona ngiyibone uyazi ngumdlalo kakhulu umdlalo amadlwane wabantwana into eyenzakala ekhaya eZimbabwe laphana but ungathi uyayikhangela yenziwa ngabantu abadala abakhulileyo esithi nxa sibakhangele sokwesinye isikhathi sibanike inhlonipho esabisayo but ngendlela abenza ngayo hayi umne ngathi bazangixolela ngoba into abayenzayo mina mbona vele besenza amadlwane lana enze eZimbabwe amadlwane njengalokho abayenzileyo to the last engakhayelela ukuthi into abangayenza yona leyo ukuthi baze bahlanganisa amabandla nxa bekuvele kutheni kwaze kwathini
khonapho
Tulani kuTsvangirai phela la yena lo angincube wakhona ngisho wasuka kuTsvangirai lalaba labo basuke kuTsvangirai but bebengazwani omnye nxa kwesakhe isihlahla leyo besithi lwana yinja lwana uwaze wabanje lo waze wabanje but namhla seyiyabo futhi ukuthiwa hayi sesingabangane sesibambene siyahlala ebhekini wangisidle sonke liqiniso lelo hayi mina vele ngokwami hayi ngokuya kwabe ngaba join ZANU-PF ibe izANU-PF eZimbabwe yonke because into abayenzayo vele ayicaci
yes siyakuzwa kakhulu siyakuzwa ke mnumzana Tulani yes siyakuzwa baba
ohlelele khona
yes
bonke hayi mina vele nivumelani na into yakhona
yes bongile kakhulu othi ke sithathe labanye yes sithathe labanye Tulani phela banengi
ilizwe unite angizwa
banengi abantu yes esikuzwile baba sizambuza umnumzana uWelshman Ncube sibuze la umnumzana uTenayibidi ukuthi sizwe ukuthi bathini ngalokho okukhulumileyo so kwamanje siyabonga kakhulu baba
hayi kubonge mina bawo
yes bonga kakhulu siyadumisa what Mr. Tulani is saying is that he's not happy with the coalition or the party that has been formed. He says they would rather join ZANU-PF than to form this other MDC, So he says they're just wasting time.
And Mr. Biti, we have these two formations are coming together. And what has happened to the Grand Coalition, if you can also explain that? Honorable Biti?
If you look at the text of the document that was signed today, it acknowledges that discussions around the Grand Coalition are still taking place. The last time we met on the 15th of August, we agreed that the parties that were sitting on the table should actually go and consult their members. We are aware that ZAPO, for instance, led by Dr. Tabengwa, has done its consultations. I can't tell what they've agreed, but I'm aware of their position. So I suspect that we are going to meet very soon again, so that we can conclude that aspect of discussion. So in other words, our reunification is not exclusive, but complementary to the attempt to form the Grand Coalition, which we have been pursuing since May of 2014.
Mm-hmm. And is Mr. Tsvangirai welcome to discuss you about the Grand Coalition?
Well, the talks around the Grand Coalition are talks of voluntary parties in Zimbabwe, bounded by the same common values. And these values include the values of humble, obedient leadership, personal accountability and responsibility, non-violence, constitutionalism, the acceptance that leaders can go, in other words, limitations of terms of office around the leadership, the complete detestation of concentrating power in an individual. So any party that believes in these values is part of the negotiating table. I think that those sitting at the table will be abhorred by leaders who put power in their own individuals and who use violence. And that is where I think Mr. Tsvangirai will have a problem.
rega tiende kune mumwe muteereri. Mukoma Philip makadi kuBotswana. Mukoma Philip? Namba ya winenge kuti netse Gibbs.
Yes, kwele kuwe Professor Ncube umzwile lapho baba uThulani eBotswana ngale khuluma. Akumphendule baba.
Ya ngimzwile baba Gibbs uThulani Sibili. What I can say about his comments is that I am very pleased, extremely happy actually, that when the supporters of opponents get angry and annoyed, as he seems to be angry and annoyed, we must be doing something right. If we were to be getting applause from our opponents, then we must be doing something wrong. That Tulani will call you all the way from Botswana, profess a complete lack of understanding and heaping abuse on us and insults shows that our opponents right now, they should be doing their own MDCT stuff and they are listening to us and they are angry at us because we are basically representing opposed worlds from them. All they want to do is to replace Mugabe with Likli Mugabe and continue the old corrupt system which does not deliver anything to people. And those who believe in that, like Trump, they have reason to be angry, they have reason to profess lack of understanding. The liberation struggle was about our freedom and our right in a democracy to choose to make the political choices that we want. And our responsibility as free citizens of Zimbabwe is to give the people of Zimbabwe an alternative fundamentally different from ZANU-PF, an alternative fundamentally different from MDCT. And that is what we are doing. That is what we are going to be working on. We will work day in, day out for the next couple of years until the next election to make sure that our political discourse in Zimbabwe ceases to be a discourse about personalities, a discourse about who wants to remove Mugabe, a discourse about who has committed treason by saying Mugabe must go, and equally a discourse which talks about the only person who can remove Mugabe is Tsvangirai. This political discourse that we are driving is not about that. The political discourse we are driving is about what the liberation struggle was about, to ensure that we have a political system that delivers a better life to people, that delivers jobs, a better health, a better education, so that we have a happy people who are contented, who have the basic necessities of life. That's what we are talking about. The others can issue whatever insult and abuse they want, but our responsibility is to make sure that when Zimbabweans do make a choice, they have this choice.
Thank you so much, Professor Ncube. Please do stay on the line. For those of you who are just joining us, good evening. And this is Studio 7 Live Talk. And tonight on Live Talk, we are talking about the reunification the MDC and the MDC renewal team. And our guests this evening, we have Honorable Tendai Biti and Professor Washman Ncube. Tine muteereri wedu ari kuBotswana ndofunga vadzoka. Makadi Mukoma Philip?
Ndinofara mwana babangu akadi yako.
Aiwa isu tinotamba anzi zvemutova kumwe wakaoma kumwe munyoro.
Tauraro. Ndaniwo ndinoda kwasa vadare vese Studio 7 nemashoma ndinokwanisa kundingotaurawo. Naizvozvo ndinoti kana tikanyarana hatiudzane chokwadi asi tikataurirana chokwadi chaicho tinokwanisa kubudirana pachena tichiziva kwatinoenda nekwatinobva. Naizvozvo varume, kana tikatarira pane mumwe munhu, kana tikatarira zvakaita kana kushoko raMwari, mukatarisa vanhu vese vakanga vachitungamira vaiapendwa naMwari, hazvinei nekudzidza kuti ndakaenda kuchikoro ndakanogirajueta zvakadai, hazvisizvo. Vanhu vanoda munhu, vanhu havadi kudzidza kwemunhu. Naizvozvo ona nekuda kwakwatinobva ndokunotidzidzisa kwatinoenda. Saka naizvozvo tiri kuda vazoziva varume kwavakabva nemabudiro avakabva kuti vakabva vachinongedzerane vachitaura kuti kudii pamusoro pemurume uyu. Dai zvanzi zvinofamba semaonero angu ini vasabvoke futi kuMDC yacho uye ivo ngavabvise zita rekuti MDC. Ari muno munhu waWilson uyo tendaiditi ari kutaura because havana musoro wepati yavo yavati vava nayo. Vari kutadza kutaura zvakakwana zvedu. Hatizivi zvavari kutaura pamusano pezanu. Hatitori sekuti zanu yeye mugabakana haisiyo nyaya. Ngavaite pati yavo vasiyane nekumesena kuti MDC vasiyane nekumesena kuti Morgan Tsvangirai. Vanhu vave kuziva muZimbabwe kwavari kuenda nekwavanobva. Kaneta nevanhu vakadzidza ava nemaitiro ndivo vari kutinetsa futi ikoko zanu kwatikata kutaura nezviri murutivi. Ndo vari kundimitsa munyonganyonga yese vamwe vakanzi tava nevana vamwe vakanzi kuti ndivava vakadzidza ivava. Vanhu vave kuziva zvavari kuda. Vanhu vandoda iye nekushata kwake zvaakatoita izvozvo. Vanhu vanodai tiri kutochema dai zvanzofamba semaonero angu ini indiri kuti manjuru ngavasiyane nekoko zvichida Mwari havana kuvaisa ikoko ngavauye kuno kuvaite Morgan Tsvangirai vaite pati vabvaudza varungu vakuona kuvanoa zvova zviri nyore kupuwa mabasa vanhu vohora ichosiyana nazvo zvava vanokwanisa kuramba vachivachiraisa mumatupi eupenyu noda kuti vakadzidza ani munonzi vashongora taura weshman kuti
Mkoma Philip
asi munhu akadzidza tikareva munhu mashoko ari kutaura panhepo achitaura mashoko anotuka kuti Morgan Tsvangirai ukazatemiya mukaitsvabva chindiveni zvakataura ishoko rinotuka kureva kuti Morgan inyoka yaari kufananidzirwa ari kuda kuramba akagredwa nowekuti akuti ayambuke rwizi rwupi.
aiwa tinotenda zvikuru Mkoma Philip nekupinda muchirongwa chedu. Tinotenda zvikuru nekupinda muchirongwa chedu.
Ndatendawo zvikuru nemashoko andataura.
Of course, what Mr. Philip there is saying that he has problems with intellectuals. And he's saying maybe that is the main reason why they might have split from Mr. Tsvangirai. And of course, he is really bitter. I think he was on and on about the issue of the educated elite. I think before we go to your caller, we will ask Mr. Biti to address that. Mr. Biti?
Yeah, I think we pedal tinofambisa mamwe mamyth kana kuti zvinhu zvisingamiri pachokwadi. Nyaya iri muZimbabwe ndeyekuti vanhu vari kusafa, vanhu vane nzara, vanhu havana mabasa, vanhu vari kutambudzika. Hondo iyi isu takasenza navaTsvangirai for 15 years. Mukusenza uku andizvo unoona kuti zvarasika gwara remusangano. Handi zvoba zvatakavambira musangano weMDC. Mukatarisa human takabvumirana kuti zvinova chichekutanga kukuwadza inyaya dzegovernance, inyaya dzekuti masimba ese anoiswa mumunhu one Robert Kandoro Mugabe. Takabvumirana zvekuti chatadzisa not just nyika yedu Zimbabwe but pasi rose inyaya yekuti leaders refuse go. Chatadzisa futi kuti nyika yedu itransforme inyaya yekuti maleaders edu are corrupt, maleaders edu are violent, and maleaders edu are not personally responsible. Tochitarisa kwatakabvawo kune ZANU hapasina musiyano. So vanhu vane kodzero. The people of Zimbabwe have got a democratic right to choose a new beginning, to choose a new pathway. Those are nhasi muHarare. The people of Zimbabwe vanga vakawanda, I think maona mufananidzo vatara gwara itsva rekuti we want to introduce politics of love, politics of issues, politics of jobs, politics of people, putting the people of Zimbabwe first. Nenyaya yandambotaura yekuti tinopinda mumademocrats tisiri mademocrats. It is a crime to also try to be different. It is a crime. Saka kutenda kwese kwamuri kunzwa uku hapasi based on issues. It's not based about what Tsvangirai can do, because he can't do anything which he has failed in the last 15 years. It's basically about why are you being different. So at the end of the day, you see with ZANU-PF who are non-fascist, and those others who belong to the big tent and pretend to be Democrats are no Democrats at all. We in the project we started today are not going to be deterred because we know Mahatma Gandhi says the way of truth will always find its way out.
Thank you, Honorable Biti. Gibbs.
Yes, mzwele lapho ke umnumzana uPete sibile khuluma amagama amaningi. Yes, sizwe ke umnumzana uPatrick ose South Africa. Baba Patrick kunjani baba?
Hayi ngiyaphila Mthembu njani baba?
Hayi siphile kakhulu mnumzana. So akuphose nje amafitshana akho khonapha.
Hayi amafitshane nje mfuna ukubuza nyawezwa sibili labo baba bebeka kodwa lami nje ngibahlela kweyami ingqondo njengalo baba omunye obengumkhulumeli wase-South Africa ukuthi vele lawo amadoda yiwo ama-trapper ayi-problem uphathi from ku-MDC. Ngizaqala nje ngombuzo ukuthi lobu baba uWelshman Ncube la uBiti elandela behlamuka uTsvangirai olwalong wayekumeshena ukuthi iphathi kayidliwanga iwinile ngo-2000 bona olwalong uzwabe emcriticize ukuthi nguye wahlisa iphathi. Nxa sithi siyakubona lamhla lapha ngibheke iphepha iDaily Sun yange-Friday ethi Top of the World iyakufakaza ukuthi amazimpolos awina kodwa acindezelwa. Umncedisi walokhu ukuthi kucindezelwe wazithabo Mbeki. Kumbe kabakwazi na ende kuphumile la ku-states yase-South Africa. Right all along bona bebemcriticize ukuthi nguye wadlisa iphathi. In which ways? Come to ufika esikhathini sokuthi uTsvangirai uyahlanganwa lezanu wabonakala i-changing sibile yabonwa ngumuntu wonke ngitsho lobu umntwana omncane wathola ukuthi even ku-government abantu sebehola amapholisa otitsha ngendlela enhle yena lowo bakuBiti enguyophetheyo kwaze kwaba lo solo kwezinye indawo bekubalisa ukuthi yena nguyosesala lesikhwama semali. He was under Tsvangirai. Lamhlanje sebethi behlamuka bakhomba uTsvangirai ngeminwe ngoba bafuna eyabo iphathi and bayibeke ngalonela igama le-MDC. uTsvangirai thina kasimboni bubi bona yibo abazala ingxabano phakathi kwephathi.
Phetha ke phela baba. Phetha
ukuthi babe libandla eliyi-1 loba kunqolo monakalo babumbe njengakhona okwethi kubona kuzanu. Uzanu zinengi into ezimbi laphana kodwa bayazama ukuzibumbela.
Baba Patrick
size sikubone sebesehlukana kodwa sokutshengisela ukuthi ikhona indlela sebeyibalekela.
Baba Patrick mara mbijana kancane pole. Siyakwazi swatshayile sibili siyakwazi uzondile sibili kodwa ke wothi sibanike labo phela ichanisi. Anokuthiwa ichanisi baba.
Alright.
So utshayile sibili kakhulu mndaweni khona ngapho siyakwazi lalela ke ukuthi bathini. Ulalele usithulele zwi uzabeza bekuphendula kodwa singakenzi njalo zapha ukuthi ngichasise ukuthi what Mr. Patrick was saying. So he says basically, you know, these two gentlemen have got a serious problem. The problem is that they don't even know that the 2002 elections were won by the MTC as per the report that was released in South Africa recently. So he says, do they know that Mr. Tsvangirai actually won the elections? And the South African authorities were actually sitting on a report showing that he won. So I think they have to answer to some of these questions.
Yeah, let's start with Honorable Biti. Of course, there's been criticism from those who don't agree with Mr. Tsvangirai that he has been consistently losing elections. But there's this report that the caller is mentioning, which said the election was not free and fair. I mean, this has been consistent that the playing field is not level. And so the question is, why always blame Mr. Tsvangirai for the losses?
Look, you know, the personalization of this debate is unfortunate. We were part of the MDC in 2002. So we were part of the people who were victims of a stolen election. We made that statement very clear Prof. Washman Nube was the Secretary General of the MDC at the time. The election was stolen. Very different from the debate about 2013. In 2013, we said, look, ZANU has been stealing elections from 2000. Even the June 26th election, we won it. If you call it, South Africa doesn't know. But the point was, look, Comrade President, we can't continue participating in elections which are rigged when there is no reform. There's no reform of the media, there's no reform, there's no security sector reform. And some of us made it very clear that we shouldn't participate in an election where there is no reform. But others forced us to participate because they told us that we were going to win the election. So the problem is not about the elections being stolen. That is fact. The problem is on an individual who does the same thing over and over and over again and expect a different result. So it's a different discourse altogether.
But is that not a contradiction? Let's bring in Professor Ncube. Professor Ncube, you were not part of the MDCT. You participated in the last elections, even though the electoral laws had not been amended. Why did you take part?
Well, I come to that question. Let me also get an opportunity to comment very briefly on the essence of what the gentleman from South Africa was saying. He speaks of us being rebels, abahlambuli. Regrettably, he speaks from a position of complete ignorance. And there's nothing as dangerous as a person who invokes super emotion from total ignorance. A rebel is a person who basically departs from the common cause, the agreed common cause. And as far as we know, and this is a fact, the agreed common cause of the MDC at its formation in the program for change agreed to get the Zimbabwe Women's Bureau in 1999 into the formation of the MDC. That we are going to be a party which believes in non-violence, which does not believe in the use of violence as an instrument of political organization. We are a party which will believe and defend essentially the aspect of collective decision-making as a basic tenement of democracy. We are a party which believes in integrity and honesty. And contrary to the stigmatization of us as rebels, we have remained consistently, unequivocally committed to those values and principles which formed the basis for us coming together. In fact, I can say there is no power on earth which will make some of us shift an inch from those principles. Those of us who have defended throughout this whole period the fundamental values and principles of the MDC are the ones who are being called all sorts of names by the gentleman from South Africa, rebels, and yet those who have literally thrown away the constitution of the MDC, who have violated, trembled on those principles, who have actually formed militias, who assault people on a daily basis, who change the constitution.
Professor Ncube, unfortunately, time is not our best ally, but thank you so much for taking part in this lively discussion. And also, Honorable Biti, thank you for joining us, and you are free to come back anytime that you so wish. Thank you so much, and we want to thank our callers and those who send messages on Facebook and WhatsApp. Signing off, this is yours truly, Blessing Zulu.
And I'm Gibbs Dube in Washington, D.C. saying good night, Zimbabwe.